My name is Jessica Graziano. I'm 50 years old, and the story that Eliza wants me to tell you about is my car accident and my traumatic brain injury. So this was back in the year 2000, and it was April 15th. It was snowing. But back then you had to put your car into four-wheel drive, like change the hubcaps and stuff, and I hadn't done that because it was April. And I was late to a haircut, so I dropped off my, at the time, fiance, dropped him off, and I was heading down to Boulder, and I was driving down the diagonal 119, Highway 119. And I really don't remember anything. I remember dropping Andy off. And then the next thing I remember vaguely is coming out of the tube for an MRI that I was having done. I was running late, so I was probably going above the speed limit. And my car spun out. It was a one-car accident. My car spun out, went backwards into a ditch, and they said it was like shaken baby syndrome, where my brain shook, or my head shook so hard that my brain hit my skull. And my car spun out, but it went off backwards into a ditch. So I was coming this way, and I must have spun out and went backwards into a ditch, and so that's where the violent shaking came from. Luckily, there was a doctor coming out right there, which is crazy. And he, I guess, revived me because I wasn't breathing when he got to me. And called 911, and I went to the hospital, and I was in a coma for 3 or 4 days, I think. And I don't remember any of it. I was in intensive care for 2 weeks. They had to drill a hole in my head because my brain was swelling and the pressure was too much for my brain to handle, so they drilled a hole in my head to drain the fluid from the brain swelling. And I don't remember anything in the hospital. I have a twin sister too, so it was a pretty big deal because they called her. I think they called Holly. Did they call you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they called my friend Holly, who was my hairdresser.
She was on her way to get a haircut with me, and I'm a hairdresser in Boulder. She didn't show, and it was kind of crazy because she has never like no-showed and like not come to an appointment before, and so like 20 minutes after her appointment time, I called her and left a message and said, "Thanks a lot for not coming, slacker. You're totally wasting me money," and was kind of annoyed with the whole situation. And then like, I don't know, like 4 hours later, her mom calls and leaves me a message and says, "I'm sorry that Jessica is not coming to her did not come to her hair appointment today. She got in a car accident and is in a coma at Boulder Community." And so I worked just down the street from there, so I like hopped in the car at the end of the day and rushed over to Boulder Community to see what was going on with her. And she was in ICU with, at the time they didn't really know what was going on with her, but she was definitely had her brain had been jostled, as they had kind of said in the that's what the EMTs had said. And so anyway, find out she had a brain injury, and went to visit her almost every single day after that while she was in the ICU, and then when she was kind of in recovery. But at the time they had to shave almost half of her head. They shaved like a big chunk like this so that they could drill into her head and release some of the pressure. And so I came to the hospital room and washed her hair in a bucket, which was super weird, and then cut her hair to match. And the first thing she said that I remember when she came out of her coma was, "I can't believe you cut all my hair off," because she's never had short hair before. And so she was super mad at me for cutting her hair off, even though she needed it because she couldn't not have. I mean, it was crazy. You should have seen it. Like half of it was long and half of it was shaved. So we kind of still to this day laugh about how she was so mad at me for cutting her hair off, even though she looked crazy with half her head shaved.
I had no short-term memory at all. I, for whatever reason, my right foot was prone, So they had to keep taping my foot up, and I had to learn to walk again. My vision was really, really bad because of the part of my brain that got injured. I would see double, so they actually had tape over one of my eyes so I could kind of see. They Holly cut off all my hair, so I had kind of long hair, and she cut off my hair because they had to shave the spot where they drilled the hole in my brain. So she cut it off so it would match a little bit better. And after I was in Boulder Community Hospital for 2 weeks, I got transferred up to Mapleton, which is the long-term facility. And I think that's kind of where I learned to walk again. But I had no memory, no short-term memory at all. So I think I was asking a lot when I woke up. People said they'd have to explain to me where I was and what happened again, so that I could know where I was. And I had just gotten engaged like a month before, and when you have a traumatic brain injury, they don't know how you're going to heal. They didn't know if I'd walk again, if I would be able to do normal things. And I remember telling Andy that if he wanted to leave me, he could, because I had no idea how I was going to heal. And I didn't cry the whole entire time. And then a couple weeks after I got out of intensive care, I got out of the long-term rehab facility, they did a bunch of tests on me to test my cognitive abilities. And I took the tests, and then we had to go back and get the results. And so I asked Andy to go with me because I wanted to show him that I was getting better. And I scored 3rd percentile on memory. Like, I thought I was getting better, and I wasn't. And then after we left there, we went to Olive Garden for dinner, and I started talking about it, and I just burst into tears. And it was the first time I'd cried through the entire thing. It was like I had this dam built up, and then all of a sudden it just opened up, and I totally burst into tears. And I was crying because I wasn't getting better, and I didn't know if I was going to ever get better. And then, like, from that period on, it's like the dam broke and it's never healed, because now it's so easy for me to cry. Or like, it was like I was able to hold back my emotions, and then once the dam broke, I couldn't hold back the emotions anymore. So, and that's gotten better over time, but it was like that for, I would say, a couple of years afterwards. So like a year after the accident, we actually had a Just Day 5K, and my friends came over to my house, and my hair was growing back. And I think we did it on the actual anniversary of the accident, maybe. But then my sister made t-shirts. Sorry, that's my dog. My sister made t-shirts. Sorry. Speaking of brain injury, I think he's got some sort of brain injury. No. My sister made t-shirts, and they said, "Just do it," like "Just do it," the Nike thing, but "Just do it," and it had a little cane on it instead of the Nike symbol. I should have put that on today. I still have that. Sit. Well, they said when it happened that some of the long-term effects would be fatigue, and I definitely have fatigue. I don't know if it's the fact that I'm a single mom with 2 kids that are almost teens, and I work full-time, or if it's because of the brain injury. So I still get fatigued a lot. I take like a 20-30 minute nap. Even at work, I go in one of the conference rooms and close the door, and I lay down and take a nap on the floor, and then I get up and I'm fine. And I also had a lot of trouble with my vision, so I went to vision therapy a lot after the accident happened. Probably for at least 2 years I'd go to vision therapy, and they would make me do these exercises. So I have what's called nystagmus, where my eyes bounce. So if you get pulled over by a police and they think it's a DUI, they give you a test to check out your pupils, because the part of my brain that got injured is the part that keeps your pupils steady. Mm-hmm. So I have a band that's like this, and if I look up or if I look down, my eyes shake and I can't see really well. So the vision therapy was supposed to help that. I'm not sure it really did. And then I also went to a different eye doctor, and he said he thinks that one of my eyes kind of got knocked out of place. So I actually had surgery where they removed the muscle from the back of my eye and replace it, hoping to kind of even out my eyes. And it was cool because when I came out of the surgery, my eye was still numb, and there was like the sutures were coming out of it, and he was standing over there, and he'd do stuff and say, "How does it look now? Is it single? Is it double? Whatever." and they would pull the sutures to kind of adjust my eyeball. It
Whoa.
was freaky. Yeah, it was totally freaky. But I was hoping that would change things, but it didn't change anything. So when I run, because of my foot being prone, I don't have normal sensation from my knee down on that side. And when I run, everything moves with me. So when you run, it's like your body's moving and everything else stays steady. When I run, it's like everything is running and jumping with me. And I don't have normal sensation in my legs, so I always have to be looking at my feet when I go downstairs or holding onto the rail or something, because I've fallen down the stairs several times. I fell down once and had to crawl to my phone, and my mom came and picked me up and took me to the hospital, and I tore my MCL on one leg. And then I was at a wedding for one of my friends, and I fell down the stairs, and I tore my MCL and my ACL on the other knee. So I have to see my feet, because it's like my body doesn't have the ability to know like spatial distance, so I don't know where my feet are unless I can see them. So it's still, I mean, I guess you never know how you're going to heal when this happens, and that was the scary part.
Yeah, she was in the hospital for a really long time in the recovery, trying to learn how to walk and eat and do everything again. It was amazing that she came through it, that she did, and I'm telling you, she has the best sense of humor out of anyone I know, and she's had a lot of crazy things happen in her life with her husband and her kids and her brain injury, and she always looks on the bright side of everything of life, and I'm really, really lucky to have been friends with her for over 40 years, and I'm glad that she survived that day.
I went to some brain injury support groups afterwards, and it was depressing because I was way better off than a lot of those people were. It depends on the part of your brain that gets injured, how severely it gets injured, how you heal. I couldn't drink for a year afterwards because my brain was healing, and alcohol affects your brain. So, I mean, stuff kind of changed, but considering everything that could have happened or how I could have been, I'm so incredibly lucky to be, I mean, I have a normal job. I actually went back to school and got a certificate in as a medical assistant. So I'm really lucky how things have turned out. Well, it was almost 20 years ago, so now it's just kind of my new normal, so it doesn't really change anything. But at the time, this is a whole nother story too. We had just found out, my twin sister and I had just found out we were adopted when we were 30 years old. So this accident happened when I was 30. We had just found out we were adopted. And because of the accident, that didn't matter, you know. It like totally took a backseat to things because I was so happy to be alive and I was getting better all the time. And I think it's changed the accident in general. I mean, I still think about it pretty much every day because my weird vision stuff. But it let me realize at the time how important it was that I had what I had and that my life was good and I was getting better all the time.
Do you think your twin knew that something had happened?
We used to joke about that all the time. Like, we learned how to trick our friends. So I'd say, we'd be at a birthday party and I'd say, okay, I'm gonna think of something and Jen's gonna tell you what I'm thinking of. And I'd sit there and I'd be like, okay, I've got it. And then Jen would think for a second and she'd say, rooster. I'd be like, yep, that's what it was. And people totally believed it. But she didn't know anything that happened that day. So I know a lot of times with twins, you hear stories about how something happens to one and the other one knows that it happened, and that never really happened with us. No. But she, when I was in the coma, she was in the room with my, at the time, fiance. And I remember her afterwards, her telling me that she was like trying to send me messages to my brain, like trying to use the twin power or whatever to try and send me messages so that I would be okay. And she said even driving to the hospital, she was like, come on, Jess, I know you can make it. I know you can make it. You've got to fight. And she was saying all that positive stuff, hoping that I would know or hear it or whatever. I don't think I did, but you never know.
What's one positive thing that you think came out of the whole experience?
One positive thing. I would think that it's the fact that I can use it as an excuse a lot. So I have a terrible memory, and I always whenever I would mess up things or do things wrong, I'd say, oh, it's the brain injury. I had a brain injury. And I still, to this day, it's been almost 20 years now, and I still use it as an excuse, and my friends make fun of me. And I don't know if it's because of the brain injury or because I'm getting old or whatever, but I'm going to keep milking that as long as I can. I have an excuse for the dumb things I do.